After the bombshell release of the Epstein files over these last few weeks, one conclusion rises above all the noise, and it is staggering. According to internal FBI communications and case summaries, federal agents say they could not find any evidence that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked girls to other people, to the rich, the powerful, the politically connected, the so-called elite. For years, that's been the dark assumption, that Epstein wasn't just an abuser himself, but a broker, supplying girls to other men and secretly recording them. Now the documents say something very different. Is that really possible? Could that be true? Let's dig into it. Before we dive into the Epstein files, I want to flag something that could directly affect your career. Forbes recently reported that employees who actively use AI at work are earning, on average, 40% more than those who don't. That's not a small gap. That's a fundamental shift in the job market. The early adopter window for AI is closed. We're now in the phase where people either learn to use these tools or get left behind by those who do. The question is simple. Are you just going to watch this shift happen, or are you going to benefit from it? Outskill is the first dedicated AI-focused educational platform built entirely around real-world AI skills, and they're hosting a live, 2-day AI mastermind training this Saturday and Sunday from 10:00 a.m. to 7:00 p.m. Eastern each day. Right now, for the next 48 hours, you can get in for free. This is a 16-hour, intensive AI training that Outskill says has already helped more than 10 million professionals across industries level up their careers with AI. It's rated 4.9 stars on Trustpilot. Here's what you'll learn over those 2 days. How to build AI agents that can plan, write, and execute tasks for you. How to automate workflows and connect tools like Google Sheets and email, so your work runs on systems instead of constant manual effort. How to use those time savings to get a real edge at work or build something of your own. How to actually profit from those skills, not just understand the theory. People who have gone through this training have launched AI services that bring in $2,000 to $3,000 a week. Not hypotheticals, real businesses built on skills they learned inside this program. You'll also get the AI Prompt Bible, a library of high-performing prompts you can adapt instantly. The AI Profit Roadmap, step-by-step ways to turn AI skills into income. A personal AI toolkit builder, help designing your own setup of tools and workflows. The 2026 AI Survival Hackbook, a forward-looking guide to upcoming AI shifts and concrete steps you can take now to be prepared. Seats are limited. Use the link in the description to claim your spot while it's still free. And you can join our WhatsApp community through that link as well to stay updated throughout the training. All right, let's turn back to Epstein. What the new files actually say. As someone who's followed every phase of the Epstein saga, and especially this latest dump under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there's a question I keep circling back to. Could someone else, anyone else, have been criminally prosecuted based on what the government actually found? That's one of the biggest questions people have had from the beginning. Did Jeffrey Epstein traffic girls to powerful men? Was there a network of high-profile abusers hiding behind him? Was there a client list that would destroy reputations and end careers? Well, according to the Associated Press's review of the files, the FBI says no. They say they did not find evidence to support that narrative. We went into the records ourselves, and based on the portions we've seen so far, that appears to match what the FBI is saying internally. According to these documents, agents combed through bank records. They searched emails and other communications. They interviewed victims and witnesses. They searched Epstein's properties, New York, Florida, the U.S. Virgin Islands, top to bottom. Their consistent conclusion, at least in these internal summaries, is that they did not find evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to other people. This is despite the fact that Epstein himself was charged with sex trafficking of minors. Ghislaine Maxwell was charged and convicted for conspiracy and sex trafficking, essentially for recruiting and grooming victims for Epstein, and for participating in the abuse herself. But even in Maxwell's case, she was not convicted for trafficking girls to other powerful men. The government's theory was narrower. She helped Epstein abuse victims and helped maintain the pipeline of girls, but always into Epstein's orbit, not out of it. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Epstein died in jail before his own case went to trial, and from the government's perspective, it appears the focus, on paper, has always been that the abuse stopped at Epstein and Maxwell. Now with these new fill-ins, the FBI goes further. According to an Associated Press article and the underlying documents, the FBI claims they found no videos, no photos from any Epstein property that showed other people sexually abusing victims. Nothing from his New York townhouse. Nothing from his Palm Beach home. Nothing from his U.S. Virgin Islands residence, what the world knows as Epstein Island. Inside the FBI email, what they did and didn't find. Here's how one internal email to then Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Benino, lays it out. The sender's name is redacted. The email is dated March 20, 2025. Let me translate its substance into plain English. The email explains that case agents and assistant U.S. attorneys, AUSAs, made sure that every video and every image from the case file and from Epstein's residences and devices was reviewed for evidence of a crime. After those reviews, they say, they found no evidence that any videos or images existed showing any of the identified victims being sexually abused. They found no evidence that anyone other than Epstein and Maxwell participated in the sexual abuse of victims in this case. The email specifically addresses the widespread theory that Epstein secretly recorded other powerful men abusing girls for blackmail. We are aware of the theory circulated in the media and online that Epstein video recorded the abuse of his victims, including by other men. But we have found no evidence to support that theory. Indeed, had we found such videos, we certainly would have used them as evidence in the criminal cases we investigated and prosecuted, and would have pursued any leads they generated. We did not, however, locate any such videos. The email then goes into much more detail about the video evidence, surveillance cameras and their limits. According to the memo, during 2019 searches of Epstein's New York residence and U.S. Virgin Islands residence, the FBI searched specifically for surveillance video and cameras. The case agent's understanding, as described in the memo, was that no cameras were found inside any bedrooms or living areas at either property. There were surveillance cameras near the entrances to the residences. Those systems only retained video for a limited number of days. By the time the searches happened in 2019, the only surviving recordings were very recent, essentially just routine surveillance footage from that year. The FBI's investigation, however, was focused largely on events from the 1990s and early 2000s. Because of that, the email says those 2019 entrance videos were not seized. Why? The warrants only allowed the FBI to take evidence that was responsive. In other words, evidence with a clear connection to the crimes and time period they were investigating. The FBI had no legal authority under those warrants, issued by courts in the Southern District of New York and the U.S. Virgin Islands, to seize unrelated modern surveillance video. So they're essentially saying, we looked. The cameras weren't where people thought they were. The video that did exist was too recent and legally outside the scope of what we were allowed to take. CDs, photos, and a videotape. The email goes on to describe what was seized. A large number of CDs, some printed photographs, at least one videotape, containing nude images of females, some of whom appeared to possibly be minors in their late teens. Here's how the FBI says they handled that material. Case agents reviewed all of those images. All of them were turned over to Ghislaine Maxwell's defense team as part of discovery. None of the images, according to the FBI, showed sexual abuse. None of them showed any males with the nude females. Some of the photos did include victims who were central to Maxwell's trial. Those photos were marked as sealed exhibits, shown only in court under seal because they depict victims nude and are considered highly sensitive. Never released publicly. So again, the consistent theme, very disturbing material but not, per the FBI's description, visual evidence of other men abusing the victims. The massive digital review. The email then shifts to the digital forensics review. After seizing Epstein's devices in 2019, computers, drives, and so on, the FBI's CART, Computer Analysis Response Team, unit extracted over 1 million images and videos. A team was assembled. FBI agents, FBI analysts, SDNY AUSAs, SDNY paralegals. They divided up the entire pool of media and followed a single, broad protocol. At least one reviewer personally looked at every single image and every single video from each device. Reviewers had to decide whether each file was responsive to the search warrant. To be deliberately over-inclusive, the protocol instructed reviewers to flag as responsive any image or video of a female who appeared to be under the age of 30, among other criteria. What did that mean in practice? If it could possibly be a victim, it was flagged and saved. The case agent then maintained a separate copy of every responsive image and video. An index was created detailing how many images and videos were responsive and what designation they were given under the protective order in the Maxwell case. For example, highly confidential for items containing nudity. One important note, that index did not include Epstein's iPhone or 6 iPads, although those devices were also reviewed using the same protocol. The email says, the review did indeed identify many images and videos responsive to the warrants, but none of them showed the sexual abuse of any victim or any perpetrator of sexual abuse other than Epstein and Maxwell. Material from Palm Beach Police. Before the federal case, the Palm Beach Police Department had its own investigation. According to the email, Palm Beach Police filmed interviews with victims at the station. They video recorded parts of their search of Epstein's Palm Beach residence. They seized a small number of videos from that residence. All of that material was later transferred to the FBI, incorporated into the federal case file, and reviewed by AUSAs and case agents. The FBI's summary. None of those videos showed the abuse of victims. None suggested anyone beyond Epstein and Maxwell participated in abuse. The SDNY actually introduced the video of the Palm Beach search as an exhibit at Maxwell's trial. Child Sexual Abuse Material, CSAM. The FBI is explicit on this point. None of the videos identified in the case contained child sexual abuse material, CSAM, showing victims being abused. There were no videos of sexual abuse identified at any point in the investigation. However, they do say they located approximately a dozen photographs that constituted CSAM on one of Epstein's devices. The case agent, according to the memo, determined that these CSAM images were obtained over the internet. They did not depict any of Epstein's known victims. They were not produced by Epstein himself. Those images were stored in the case file, alongside the other responsive digital evidence. Allegations of being lent out to other men. The files don't just deal with digital evidence. They also summarize interviews with victims. One 2019 memo describes a meeting in September 2019 between the FBI, SDNY prosecutors, and a victim whose name is redacted. Here's what the government says it was able to verify. Ghislaine Maxwell recruited this girl. She was sexually abused by both Epstein and Maxwell. She herself was involved in recruiting other minors. But when it came to her allegation that she was lent out to other men, the agents say something different. FBI and SDNY could not corroborate or verify her claims that she was directed to have sex with other men. They note her statements on that point were inconsistent with what other victims and witnesses reported. In particular, she said she had been lent out alongside another specific victim. That other victim denied that this happened. Now, that doesn't automatically mean the first victim was lying. It means that, from the government's perspective, those allegations weren't sufficiently corroborated to support federal charges. How many victims named other men or women? In a July 10, 2025 email titled "Response to Director's Call," the director's name is redacted in the document. Someone inside the FBI answered a very direct question. How many victims alleged that other men or women abused them? The reply summarized it like this. Approximately 4 to 5 victims accused other adult men of sexually abusing them. There was not enough evidence to bring federal charges against those men. Those matters were referred to local law enforcement. Approximately 4 to 5 victims accused other adult women of participating in sexual abuse threesomes with a minor, including Epstein's girlfriend at the time. She was approximately 18 to 20 years old during the relevant period. She was interviewed and gave a proffer, a statement under certain legal protections. Prosecutors ultimately concluded there wasn't enough evidence to charge her. The email doesn't identify that girlfriend by name. There are guesses one could make, but I'm not going to speculate here. Potential co-conspirators, Jean-Luc Brunel and Les Wexner. Another 2019 memo addresses so-called co-conspirators or potential co-conspirators. One of those names is Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling scout and owner of MC Model Agency, who was accused by multiple women in Europe of abuse and of providing girls to Epstein. The memo summarizes his status this way. SDNY was in contact with Brunel's attorneys. A subpoena had been served. There was limited evidence regarding his involvement. Brunel, as many know, later died by suicide in a French jail while awaiting trial. Another name, Les Wexner, the retail billionaire behind Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie & Fitch, whose finances Epstein once managed. He is often mentioned as one of Epstein's most significant early backers. The memo says, Wexner resides in Ohio. SDNY was in contact with his attorneys. A subpoena had been served. Again, there was limited evidence regarding his involvement. So in black and white, in the FBI's own internal shorthand, these individuals were on the radar. Subpoenas were issued. But as far as these documents show, prosecutors felt they did not have enough to bring federal charges tied to Epstein's trafficking conduct. The disconnect, public perception versus case files. All of this is understandably shocking to a lot of people. Think about the reality we've seen in the press for years. The breadth of accusers who have bravely come forward. The photographs of Epstein with presidents, princes, tech billionaires, celebrities. The flight logs, the social calendars, the dinner parties, the fundraisers. On top of that, we now have email after email and document after document showing Epstein and Maxwell communicating with high-profile individuals, sometimes in ways that are gross, manipulative, or just deeply unsettling. We've covered many of these communications here on Sidebar. Some are truly disturbing. But knowing Epstein, or even spending time with him, does not automatically mean you were involved in criminal activity. You even knew about criminal activity, or that prosecutors could meet the very high standard required to charge you with a crime. Those are three separate questions. The FBI's conclusion here, that they found no evidence of Epstein trafficking girls to other men, is therefore both legally significant and emotionally jarring for the public. The question of the client list. Now let's talk about one of the most explosive phrases tied to this case, the client list. For years, the public has been told, mostly through speculation, that Epstein kept a secret roster, a little black book of every powerful person who abused girls that he trafficked. A list that could, in theory, devastate governments and institutions if it were ever released. The Associated Press points out that part of this confusion stems from something former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi said on Fox News in February 2025, shortly after she took office. She claimed the client list was, quote, "sitting on my desk right now." That understandably set off a firestorm. But only a few months later, in July, the FBI and the Department of Justice issued a memo stating that, after a systematic review of all Epstein materials, they found no incriminating client list. That position is reinforced in a December 30, 2024 communication involving the FBI's Crimes Against Children and Human Trafficking Unit, known internally as CACTU. The memo says, a deputy, name redacted, asked whether the investigation indicated that the oft-discussed client list does or does not exist. CACTU spoke to the case agent and confirmed no client list existed. An address book, Epstein's contact book, was entered into evidence at trial, but it was not a client list as portrayed in the media. The memo concludes, the federal investigation into Epstein is concluded. The case status is pending and active. That address book has actually been in the public domain in various forms for years. It contains names and contact information, some quite famous. But again, an address in Epstein's Rolodex does not mean that person committed a crime or even knew about one. Still, for many people, this official statement, that there is no secret incriminating client list, is a major development, and not one that will be easily accepted at face value. Could we believe Epstein didn't keep blackmail material? Let's pause on what this all implies. The FBI is saying they seized devices, extracted over 1 million media files, reviewed them with a broad protocol, flagging any image or video of a female under 30, dug through bank records, interviewed victims and witnesses, and yet found no videos of other men abusing Epstein's victims, found no provable financial pattern of Epstein pimping girls out to other individuals. Assuming these summaries are accurate, we're left with two broad possibilities. One, the popular narrative was wrong. Epstein was a prolific abuser and trafficker for his own gratification, not an industrial-scale blackmailer of others, and the rumors outgrew the facts. 2. 3. If blackmail material ever existed, it was hidden or destroyed in a way that kept it beyond the reach of these searches. Perhaps on devices never recovered, perhaps in locations never found, perhaps in the hands of third parties. 4. Many people find it hard to believe that someone as wealthy, connected, and by all accounts calculating as Epstein wouldn't keep leverage on others. The theory has always been he had cameras hidden in bedrooms. He recorded powerful men with underage girls. He used that as insurance. The FBI's position is, if such material existed on any of the devices or locations they lawfully searched, given how broadly they reviewed those materials, they would have seen it, and they didn't. Which leaves us in a deeply uncomfortable place between what the law can prove and what the public is convinced must have happened. That's all we have for you right now. Thank you for joining us. As always, please subscribe. I'll see you next time.